What's going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I'm going to talk to you about ChargePoint. I want to go over some of the data points, what's been coming out from the company itself, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure to hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So ChargePoint did go down 3.78%, which wasn't all that bad. That seems to be a fairly normal day in general for ChargePoint, but the market was in massive bloodbath mode. So a lot of increased fear associated to inflation, and now some people are kind of correlating that to a potential recession coming. So it's escalating very fast. So ChargePoint didn't do all that bad, but 74 cents the low, 80 cents the high. And so when it comes down to ChargePoint, I've brought this up on occasion in the past, but lower and lower volume. So it's still not getting interest from big money. So no transactions occurring on the secondary market above $100,000. So like I said, just big money doesn't really want to pay attention to it. And there's a lot of better, opportunities elsewhere. And so you are in turn having just lower volume. So even on Friday, down or 16.93 million shares being traded, 29.8 is the average. And so if your stock is heavily shorted and you're having lower volume, it's so much easier for them to manipulate it. So for instance, looking at shorts on Friday, they did return 147,000 shares. First thing, they did double down. They increased roughly 3 million shares to kill any momentum, just to kind of cause the trend. So they caused this right here, and then they just sat back and relaxed. So again, that definitely is going to be a very big problem that ChargePoint is going to be dealing with in the foreseeable future. But even on Friday, like I said, they did return 147,000 shares. 30.77% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 125.75 million shares overall are being shorted. Shorts definitely have been doubling down, as you can kind of see right here. So it went from roughly 26% short interest to a peak of 31.45. So shorts are essentially like sharks. They are sensing blood in the water, and so they're kind of circling ChargePoint, unfortunately. So, and even based on my last video, so I put my last video out, I think 12 days ago, February the 9th, and I went over how, what is coming next and some key dates for investors, what you really need to pay attention to. And unfortunately, as what I kind of stated was going to happen, it did. So on Friday after hours, ChargePoint did get notice from the New York Stock Exchange, but it's kind of interesting on what happened. But ChargePoint receives notice of non-compliance with New York Stock Exchange trading share price listing rule. And so ultimately they did get notice on February the 19th. So they do need to get above $1. I believe it is for 10 consecutive days, but most of the time, most companies will just go down the reverse stock split route. And then that's where things get very bad, because then it's a very toxic death spiral, as what I like to call it. So essentially, they do have to give the New York Stock Exchange a plan by March the 5th, but most likely they're just going to state a reverse stock split. So what is coming next is going to be a shareholder meeting approving a reverse stock split, and then essentially after that, then you're going to have a reverse stock split. So all that is going to move very fast, because it does need to, the plan needs to be done by March the 5th. So they don't have to do the reverse stock split by that date. They just have to have it approved and that they can do it. So again, that is definitely what is coming. And I've been stating this for a while. ChargePoint, they're not really doing all that much. The whole sector is kind of suppressed under a Trump administration. So I think there's just a hell of a lot of pain coming. But what I found kind of comical is that they did get this notice on February the 19th, but ultimately the company decides to put it out on the 21st after hours. So any company trying to hide negative news puts it out after hours on a Friday. So kind of comical how this is. It goes to show ChargePoint is really trying to preserve their share price. But yeah, I think ChargePoint is unfortunately just going to go down that toxic death spiral route. So what is your general thoughts on that? Looking at options, not really much to go on, but 8,300 in calls on Friday, 126,000 in puts, 57% of all options being done were optimistic in nature, and I have a feeling it has to do with just these two right here. That's kind of skewing it. But basically for the foreseeable future, there's not much optimism. So you have roughly around that $1 range anticipated, and these are the bulls that are doing that. And then the bears are anticipating for it to be sub $1. Not really much to go on, of course. I think the next big opportunity to play some options would be when they actually do their reverse stock split. And on a side note, in case you are new to ChargePoint, they have never done a reverse stock split. So luckily enough, they've kind of evaded that. But the company itself over the last like 5 years, absolutely horrific, and especially 2023 downwards. So I started covering ChargePoint, I think it was roughly around the $10 range, and it did have a lot of good kind of expectations, and management did have a good opportunity, but unfortunately I think they dropped the ball, and now the larger economy and the circumstances, the environment, now that's just kind of hitting ChargePoint quite hard. But all in all, aside from that though, one thing that you really do need, possibly for them, from the company itself, from their upcoming earnings on the 4th, so March the 4th, current estimates -8 cents, and then 100.99 million for the revenue. You really need to have them hit a home run from this if you're going to see any likelihood of them recovering. And so the timing is kind of unique. So you're going to have the earnings on the 4th, deadline by March the 5th, and that's associated to the New York Stock Exchange deficiency. So this might be a good opportunity, but even last earnings, when I did state that, hey, the expectations are so low, Wall Street lowered the bar for them so they can easily beat. They barely beat in some aspects, didn't really give good future guidance, so it still went down. So it's not the best kind of scenario. But if you're looking at day trading ChargePoint with it at 76 cents, it is trading below this pivot point. So 77 cents will be that next strong kind of target / resistance, followed by 85 cents. Flip side, 70 cents, and then 65 cents is going to be the following support levels. So kind of just stay tuned for that. But moving on from here on the actual chart going into this week, there's absolutely nothing really to say that's positive about ChargePoint recently, other than it kind of bounced off of that 69-cent range and kind of moved higher. But because of that, it actually caused the stock price, so stochastic RSI, to be considered overbought. So it's kind of crazy. So you can swing trade this, but it's all about timing. And I think the market is going to get very, very fearful about ChargePoint. So let me know your general thoughts on ChargePoint. Do you think that there's still hope for it, or do you think it's going to go belly up? One thing to take note of is post earnings, you might see some new analyst ratings, but there was one that just came out yesterday, so on Friday, and most likely that's an answer to their deficiency ruling that they submitted. But a sell rating, 75-cent price target. Mark, who is from Goldman Sachs, has a 62% success rating. So yeah, things aren't necessarily the best for ChargePoint, but I think over the last like 3 years, it's been all the same. So let me know your thoughts on ChargePoint. Are you buying? Are you selling? What is your general takeaway from all of that? And do you think that they will have any hope of actually getting compliant again without doing a reverse stock split? The only company that I know that was able to do that in the EV sector was Polestar. So they did get a deficiency notice from the, I think it's NASDAQ, and they surprisingly did break above that. So I think they're the only company to not go down and fight to avoid that death spiral. But I think ChargePoint doesn't really have that much to offer, so I don't think that they can. But what do I know, right? Hopefully I'm wrong. Let me know your viewpoint on all that. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. One final thing, pop over to my Patreon if you're looking for good buy signals on stocks, options, and crypto. Many of them have been absolutely on point and bangers. Definitely worthwhile to pop over there and take a look. With all that, appreciate all of you watching.